How you doing, guys? Welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 10th of September 2021. I'll do a quick overview of Bitcoin. You'll see that I've started a fresh chart. Before I do, just a quick update. For those that aren't part of the Discord, the link's in the description below. One's for Swissborg, but the other one's for my own personal Discord. And I post things in there that I don't post online. So there's videos in there, we talk about charts, plenty of questions are asked, so it's a nice growing community. So if you're not part of that and you're interested in watching videos that are not on YouTube and go over lots of content, mainly educational stuff, then click the link in the description. The Patreon is still under works, but that will be going live very, very soon. And with that said, guys, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to keep abreast and up to date of all the information that I share. And with that said, let's get into the analysis. So we've got Bitcoin. I wanted to start a fresh chart, so we've got some nice levels to work with, clean levels. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I do the analysis. I know, just looking at this, I kind of know where we're at, what we're doing, but I want to kind of visualize it so we know the main key levels instead of, me making a reference of all the liquidity pools and this and that and the other. We're just going to keep it simple, so we know what we need to see and expect, in the next sort of 3 months or so, going into the remainder of the year. So, as it stands, we've had a nice reaction here. We can see it relative to the whole move from this point to this point. It's just the start of what could be, a couple of weeks pullback, maybe, I don't know, but so far it's pretty minimal. Yeah, we're still in the upper quarter of the entire move. So if you split this up move here into 4 sections, obviously we're about here for the first quarter, here for halfway, third quarter, and then the top quarter. We're very close to the top, and ideally, in an ideal world, obviously we want to see this reversed and then price continue to go and reach for these highs. Now, obviously, Bitcoin, regardless of the correlation between Bitcoin and every other currency out there, i.e. cryptocurrency or token, utility token, or it doesn't matter what, we want to see Bitcoin strong because it pulls the rest of the market with it. Okay. And there are times, obviously, when you have Bitcoin ripping in one direction or the other, and you have the odd coin here or there that isn't really following along. But generally, as a good general rule of thumb, if Bitcoin's going up, then the rest of the market's going up with it. And if Bitcoin's going down, then the rest of the market's going down. What's interesting to note, just as a quick side note, is that Ethereum has actually been stronger than Bitcoin recently, which is interesting. But maybe I'm going to do some more analysis on that, and I'll kind of figure some things out, and I'll let you guys know. It's mainly Bitcoin related, but I find it interesting that Ethereum's been kind of running a little bit on its own. So with that said, I would say, I mean, that's a complete rebalance there, and this is why we get this reaction, and this is important. Complete rebalance, you get the reaction. Okay, when we see a reaction, we can then look back and see why price reacted that way. This is why it's not important to know what's going to happen next yet. What's important is if we can see what's happening now, it tells us what happened then. Yeah, and then we look back at then, and then that then tells us what happened prior to then, and so on and so on, right? And we can kind of track price all the way up until this point. So we've had a complete rebalance, and price has started to run a little bit lower. Okay, fantastic. On the way down, if we look in this move up, there isn't really much in the way of anything to pick up or any liquidity until we, effectively come all the way down here. Now, obviously, Bitcoin is very volatile. It could quite easily come all the way down to the 30,000s again, sort of mid to upper 30,000s, and still be relatively bullish, and then just, rip to the upside. But what's interesting now is this becomes a key area. So this level right here is very important. We need to get back above this this swing that it's creating now, for any hope of continuing to the upside. The liquidity that's contained in all of this mess here, okay, effectively has been traded halfway through. Yeah, so there's still another chunk of liquidity all the way up into around about sort of 61,000, 61,050, or 61,500, sorry, before all of this gets cleared out, and then we start to grind possibly up towards the 70,000, 75,000 level. So we have to be aware of that. We'll take this off because we don't need this. It's just a visual for now. So like I said, there is liquidity down here. We're going to go into all of these candles now. We're going to try and figure out where we stand All right, and we can see this was the bottom of the move and this is the top of the move. And as you can see, there was liquidity below here. Got a really nice drop, clears all of that out, clears all of this out. So there is an imbalance here. Okay, that's one imbalance. That could potentially be traded too. And then we also have, based on the reaction, this is balanced, so we're going to go here. Okay, and take all of this, and we're going to drag it out. We're going to change this to a red, so this is our reaction point. We're going to modify it slightly, like so it's a bit cleaner. So we have the level we need to get back above, okay, and we're going to denote that with, and make this nice and straight, beautiful. Okay, and we're going to make this very thick, and we're going to turn it to black. Okay, so this is what we need to get back above, very important. Okay, there is some downward pressure, there is some downward momentum. The first place that it's going to want to touch is this level here, and we're going to denote this with a blue. Okay, so this is the first place that if Bitcoin starts to run a little bit more, this is the first place that I would expect Bitcoin to want to tap into. And then any lower, obviously, we're going into an actual liquidity pool on the daily. All right, much lower than that, not expected, can't see it. We'll go down to the 4 hour, take a quick look, and you can see it starting to accelerate just a little. It's interesting to note that actually on the 4 hour, there's a massive imbalance left behind. So we need to effectively get back above these highs. Okay, and we're going to denote that with a weird, no, it's too close to the other one. So we're going to make that green. Okay, so we need to get back above this green box. Okay, because there's liquidity there. Okay, but the draw on price is, we know the liquidity is there, we know the imbalance is there, but does it need to go back up there? Yeah, not necessarily. Right now, the complete rebalance was objective fulfillment, and this is why it's changed. So remember, when I'm pointing here on the 4 hour chart, it's the rebalance on the weekly. This is why we've got such a sharp reaction here. Okay, now that reaction has happened, we need to figure out what did it do. Yeah, what was it fulfilling when it hit that point? We know something's happened. I had an argument with somebody last year who said, oh, yeah, how do you know that it's a complete rebalance and all this sort of stuff? And I was kind of going back and forth with this person. It was very simple for me to win the argument, so to speak, because I just said, look at the reaction. Something has obviously happened there. Now, when you track price up to that point and you get this, such a violent response away from that, it's very easy to ascertain what's just happened. Yeah, so the reaction is extremely not extremely, but the action is very volatile. It's very extreme. It's very strong. Yeah, and it's a huge move away from that level. Look at all of this. So if you take the bottom end of this, okay, and you start to run up all the way up to the top end where you had to, objective fulfillment, that range took, realistically, if we take this point, all of this time to unfold in the up and down and the sideways and the small little pockets of liquidity created along the way and the pickups and the buys, the sells, and all of this order flow, all the way up until this point, and it took literally 1, 2, 3 candles to wipe it all out. This is extreme. This is violent. Okay, so with that said, we know it happened. We know it's objective fulfillment because it wouldn't have happened this way if it wasn't. Okay, so what we're trying to figure out now is, what does Bitcoin need to do next? It's not enough to just say, well, it's bullish, we're probably going to be at 100,000 at some point, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's great. And I absolutely believe that. But we're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Yeah, I don't really care whether Bitcoin goes down, because my belief and strong conviction and confidence is that it's going to go to 100,000K. The issue is, when I look at the charts this way, it's not about trading either. I'm trying to figure out where can I comfortably grab a bit more Bitcoin to add to my position while price is coming down, and do it safely. Okay, and for now, it's like, where does Bitcoin need to grab liquidity, okay, before it starts its next leg up? And it needs to grab quite a lot. Remember, when we saw this, let me go back to the weekly for a second. When we saw this drop here, okay, look how long it took here, accumulating, and then we get that nice run up. That doesn't mean that it's like a duplicate, we're going to get the same sort of thing, but we need to start to track how liquidity is being picked up. We know it's going up. Bitcoin's going up, trust me, but we need to figure out how it's picking up liquidity, where it's picking up liquidity. And while we're doing this, it's giving us an indication as to, is it picking up large amounts of liquidity? The larger the better. Is it remaining in liquidity pools long enough, for us to say, yep, it's taking its time, it's working through these levels and clearing up imbalances, picking up liquidity, because that gives us the time horizon, how long roughly it's going to take. It's not exact, but how long roughly it's going to take. And then that can give us more confidence to take a step back and say, okay, look, it's spending time at this level, which it is currently. This is the 4 hour, remember, but it's taking some time at this level now, okay? We do have the liquidity pools below and the imbalances that may need clearing up and so on. So while we're looking at all of this and we can see that it's going sideways, what we need to kind of ascertain at the minute is whether or not price is going to run into this, and if it does, how is it going to do that, and so on. So we drop down to the hourly and we start to look at this area. Okay, what does it look like? We can see price dropped aggressively here. It reversed, started to grind sideways, started to run up a little bit after a drop just there. Okay, and it created these equal highs. Great. There's obviously something here that it doesn't want to go into just yet. Starts to pull away, starts to pull away, starts to pull away. Accelerated a little bit today. Okay, that's fine. But is there anything really underneath here, that's of significance? Not really. The only liquidity pool that was interesting enough for us to even consider has just been tapped into. So any small amount of liquidity here, it's pretty much gone. There's nothing left. So if price wants to continue going lower, we would have to basically break down all of this wick, and then start to look at the areas on the 4 hour chart over here below the wick. So from this point all the way down to this point here, and kind of work out, is there any pockets of liquidity or imbalances within all of this that price will need to come down, clear up the wick, clear up the imbalances, clear up the the liquidity, or pick it up and so on. And then maybe continue to the upside, and then we start the whole process again and start to figure out on the way back up, what does it need to get through, what it picked up here. Did it, so for example, if it picks up liquidity here and then offloads it here and then picks up liquidity here and then it starts to grind back up, how much of that liquidity was picked up and how much did it drop off? I'm trying to kind of make this fun and easy to understand, and I hope I'm doing that. But how much of that did it drop off? How do we ascertain how much of that did it drop off? We can't see the orders, so how much, I know people think they can with a level 2 and they go onto some of these platforms and they look at the orders and stuff. That's fine, but we need to be able to understand the relationship between what's been picked up and what's been sold off. We're not going to sit there meticulously figuring out, okay, we know one Bitcoin was picked up at 41,000 and then it went back up and there was a correlation between a price of 41,000 and 46,000 where one Bitcoin was exchanged. I don't do any of that stuff. I look at the reaction, the time, the speed, the velocity of everything that's happening on the chart, and we map it all the way forward and all the way back until we find that one singular moment where there's nothing left. Price has to go in one direction, okay? So we're going to be mapping this going forward. So where does that leave us with Bitcoin? Right now, Bitcoin's relatively neutral to slightly bearish, if we're going to use basic terms, that most people understand. Bearish, and bullish and bearish terms, we all know what they mean. So we're kind of neutral to, slightly bearish. There is a lot of stuff down here that Bitcoin would have to grind through, to continue going lower and, fall to its death. I absolutely don't think that's going to happen at all. But as it stands right now, there's a big imbalance that it needs to clear up on the upside, but there's some stuff that it needs to do lower first, potentially. So I'm going to keep tracking price. I think we're going to get a lot of this kind of just maybe drifting a little bit lower, bleeding a little bit, into these levels where I want, where I would want to see some price sensitivity. In terms of running into these levels quite aggressively, I don't think that's going to happen. Generally, you don't see that with imbalances. So if price is running into an imbalance, you don't really see price ripping into an imbalance. When it rips, it creates the imbalance. It doesn't rebalance. Okay, so that's really important to understand. So we're not expecting a drive lower of extreme, movement or fast-paced or, something ripping to the downside or bleeding or dropping or whatever, almost like it's coming off a cliff. But, as it starts to grind lower and lower and lower, if it speeds up, we can track it on a 15 or the, the 15-minute or the hourly chart to try and figure out where these little pockets are that it's speeding up into and clearing up imbalances. Okay, so just imagine, I guess one of the best ways that I can say this is just imagine that right now price is the Hoover and it's going down to clear up all the dirt, and once it's finished and clean the room, it turns around and it goes back up to find more dirt to clean. I know that's a bit of a weird analogy, but it's the best one that I can think of right now. So with all of that said, guys, I didn't want to go too long with this video, so I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see what the weekend brings. Obviously, we'll keep a close eye on things. But as it stands weekly, still looks relatively strong. It's cleared up some stuff here, so it needs to kind of clear up some stuff here. And then I imagine we're probably going to go back, continue the upside momentum, and it will probably pull the rest of the market with it. And that's that. So again, links in the description for the Discord. There are videos posted in there. Patreon's on its way, and I will speak to you guys very soon. Take care.